Jana Gana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He Bharata Bhagya Vidhata. So this is the beginning of the Indian National Anthem, and it says that it addresses the commander of the minds of the people, the dispenser of India's destiny. Now, who is this commander of the minds of the Indian people and the dispenser of India's destiny? We can imagine that Jawaharlal Nehru, when he made this the national anthem, vaingloriously imagined that when the masses in front of him were singing this hymn, that it was meant for himself. But that is not the case. In fact, when Rabindranath Tagore originally wrote it, this was on the occasion of a visit by the British King George, and many people thought that it was meant for King George, that he was the dispenser of India's destiny. And of course, he was the legal sovereign at that time and was not questioned as such by Congress. Congress only adopted the resolution for Purna Swaraj, for complete independence, in 1929. So before that, it accepted dominion status within the British Empire and therefore accepted the British king as its sovereign. However, Tagore was very much in favor of independence. And so for him, King George was only temporarily to be recognized as the legitimate sovereign. In fact, he was not in favor of the arrangement. And he certainly didn't want to glorify it by writing a song in that sense. But it is only later that he explained in personal correspondence that definitely this was never his intention. At that time, you see, communications were not what they were now, so it was very easy for some idea to catch people's fancy, to be reported in the newspaper and then become the official version that everyone believed. So in those days, the British Indian press reported that Tagore had glorified the British king. A side effect of this was that it certainly helped Tagore to win the Nobel Prize for Literature a few years later. Because, you see, the Swedish bourgeoisie that handed out these prizes could perhaps have lived with the idea of someone revolting against colonial rule, but to endow that person with the Nobel Prize, that would have still gone a bit too far. So when they had the impression that Tagore was in fact a pillar of British rule in India, that certainly made him more acceptable. So that's a strange side effect, but that was not Tagore's intention. You see, he clearly did not recognize the British king as the sovereign of India. Neither the British king nor later the first prime minister or any other authority in India, because the song is not meant for any human ruler of India. In fact, the song itself is clear about this. In the third stanza, which nobody sings, but he wrote it, there is praise for some charioteer, Sarathi, a charioteer who guides the people yuge yuge, from age to age. This is a phrase from the Bhagavad Gita. And so it's an explanation of why Krishna has incarnated, or why Vishnu has incarnated through the person of Krishna. Because in every age he comes to save the Dharma when it is threatened. So that's what this verse refers to. The name Krishna is not mentioned, but anyone who knows anything about Hindu literature can immediately recognize that Krishna is meant. In the next stanza, there is talk about the protective mother, loving mother, who protects the people from nightmares and disasters. And there you can immediately recognize the combative mother, Durga. Now, strangely, the presence of Durga in another candidate to become India's anthem made that song off limits. It is in Vande Mataram, where especially the Muslims immediately saw a veiled glorification of Durga. So they said, you see, this is idolatry, we want to have no part of this. Now, the same idolatry, if that's what you call it, is present in the actual national anthem, Jana Gana Mana. That is for a divine presence which may be personified as Krishna, which may be personified as Durga, and there are other personifications possible, like the eternal Guru Shiva and so on. The whole Indian pantheon could pass muster here. At any rate, this is not a secularist song. The very first anthem in the world was, and that was recognized as an anthem, was God Save the King or God Save the Queen, depending on who the sovereign was at that time. The very first word of it says already that God is involved, that there is a religious dimension. The very oldest song that served as anthem, but that was not immediately accepted as anthem, is the Dutch song Wilhelmus van Nassau. This is a song about the father of the fatherland, Wilhelm, who had created the country. That song again is full of biblical references. So the religious dimension is very much present. A truly secular anthem came about with the French Revolution. And the French anthem, the Marseillaise, does not contain any religious references. And that was then, of course, imitated in the Soviet Union, in communist China, and so on. Now the secularists would want to have a similar anthem for India. And they set their hopes high when they look at the second stanza. In the second stanza, there is talk about all the religious sects of India, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Sikhs, and also the Muslims and the Christians. They're all mentioned. And so some people might say, yes, you see, this is secular. This does not discriminate between religious denominations. Yes, that's true. But then when you look at it closer, it is not equal in front of each of the religions. You see, it is not Christian and it is not Islamic to deal with all the sects on an equal footing. On the contrary, there is one, namely their own, that brings you to heaven, and all the others that bring you to hell. It is only Hindus who take a distance from this and simply accept that there are different sects, that people, as a fact of life, form different groupings, have different interpretations, And so there is an equality between the different sampradayas. Strictly speaking, if they would look into what Christianity stands for, what Islam stands for, maybe they would not agree with it, but then it is not their habit to look closely into this. Like, for example, they had Christians in their midst for more than 1,000 years in Kerala before they started looking into what those people actually believe. So you see, Hindus are quite satisfied with their own religion, and they don't question other religions. They just accept, you see, some people are happy this way, you see, so this is good enough. So when Tagore enumerates all the sampradayas, he's doing a very Hindu thing. He's not doing an Islamic thing, he's not doing a Christian thing, right? So you see, that is the most secular element, and if it helped in making the secularists accept this anthem, then so much the better. Because if they had looked more closely, they would have rejected this anthem as much as they rejected Vande Mataram. There was also a third candidate. So Vande Mataram was rejected for secular reasons. Another anthem was also rejected, namely Sare Jahan Se Hindustan Hamara. Sare Jahan Se Acha Hindustan Hamara. This was written by Muhammad Iqbal. It means, of the whole world, the best is our Hindustan. I don't know if you should say this. It's not really sensitive towards all the other countries, but I guess in a, enthusiasm for India, you might say it. Okay, it's no big deal. But you see, what was the problem with this is the person of the writer. Muhammad Iqbal was in the beginning something of an Indian nationalist. Later he became a distinctly Muslim nationalist and the spiritual father of Pakistan. And so he did not think anymore that the best in the world was Hindustan. So after that it became difficult to accept this song as India's national anthem, because it had been effectively repudiated by its own author. So what remained was Jana Gana Mana, and in my opinion this was a very good choice. If you look at the lyrics, it contains an enumeration of all the parts of India, Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, and so on. So this is a realistic view of what India is. On that enumeration, there is also a little bit of controversy, because it contains Bengal and Punjab, parts of which are in Pakistan, part now in Bangladesh, and then also Sindh, which is entirely part of Pakistan. Now, that was not the case yet when Tagore wrote the song. That was still British India, and it was united. But in fact, after partition, I still think it's a good thing that these provinces are mentioned, because they clearly say that essentially Sindh is still a part of Hindustan. It is an Islam-occupied part of Hindustan, but essentially it belongs to Hindustan, and hopefully one day it will return to Hindustan. So Pakistan is being accepted as a temporary fact of life that we haven't been able to prevent, but not more than that. It says that India does not accept the fact of Pakistan, and that the whole subcontinent ultimately should be united in an Akhand Bharat. So there is There is a serious political and religious content in that song, and I think that that only makes the song better. So in a variation on Iqbal's lyrics, we could say, Sare jahan se acha Jana Gana Mana Hamara. The best anthem in the world is Jana Gana Mana. Thank you.